Hi everyone, Katie here. Welcome back to another layout video. Today I'm scrapping a few pictures from my recent trip to Peru. These pictures, it might be a little bit hard to see what's going on in them because they're so unique. But we went up to Lake Titicaca, which is the highest navigable lake in elevation, which was really quite interesting. And people live literally in the middle of the lake on man-made floating reed islands. They've lived like this for quite a while, and they're called the Uros Floating Islands. It was a spectacular, way of life and thing to go see. So there are definitely lots of pictures. And it's also just kind of an amazing feat of engineering how they were able to make that work. So that's what my pictures are of. It's the floating islands there. And I'm using some paper from Amy Tangerine's Brave and Bold collection. I really like the paper in this collection. I have quite a bit. And then you can see that's like a little cut apart sheet that goes along with the collection as well. So I put a piece of cardstock down, just a solid color cardstock. I think it's a nice coordinating color. I do that so that it's kind of like a giant map for all my photos. It also kind of tones down the busyness of the background paper. But it still lets you see the background paper, which is of course really pretty, and I think coordinates well, works well with the photos. So from the cut apart sheet, I take a kind of teal colored journaling card and a little like ribbon or flag or whatever you want to call it. That's almost the same color actually as my cardstock, so I felt like I coordinated those pretty nicely. And I know I want to arrange my layout, kind of like this. All my photos kind of clustered together. My little journaling card and my title will go at the top, but I, haven't quite figured that one out. So I go ahead and stick these down. I am using my Herma mounting square dispenser. I've had this for quite a while. I know some people swear by it. It works. It's okay. So I'm putting my photos together. It's actually not exactly where they end up being, but it works for now. That is one thing I like about the mounting square dispenser is, like, the things stick, but you can still move them if you want. And with photos and things while I'm, in the middle of the process of everything, sometimes I pick things up and move them around or pick them up and stick them right back down or all kinds of things. So it works well for me. Now, on my journaling card, I am just writing a little bit about the floating islands, how they're, man-made floating islands. People actually live on these, like, all the time, and it's, very different from anything, I'm used to living in the United States, but it was really spectacular to see. And for them to just share their way of life with us was amazing. I will say Peruvians are extremely welcoming, and that was really cool. So that's what my journaling's about. I have my little flag here, and you can see it's kind of hanging off the edge of the paper. I will cut that off. And I'm thinking about my title. Now, these are some crepe paper thickers. I really like them, but they do kind of throw me off with all their, like every letter's a little different. It's like a handwriting. Really pretty, but totally did not work out for what I was going for with the letters that I had. I'm definitely starting to fall into a spot with my thickers where I'm all out of A's here, all out of this letter or that letter, and, there's only so much Frankensteining you can do. With some things. So hopefully there's a nice, thickers shopping spree in my future. That would be a lot of fun. Now, I'm getting out some stamps because I know I need just more. There needs to be more. Something, I'm not quite happy with it yet. And these are the Brave and Bold stamps, again, from the same collection as the paper. And I take this little one, it's just a bunch of, like, little lines And I have my Distress Oxide in chipped sapphire, and I just kind of make a line of the little line stamps down the left side of the cardstock. And I think this just gives it a little something more. It's not a whole lot. It's not something that, was like absolutely necessary, but it kind of fills in that space a little bit. And I think it was something that was necessary. My cardstock was a little too plain, even though obviously my photos being on there, pretty important. And I thought about doing some alphabet stamps, as I am, kind of in that predicament with my thickers. But I just didn't want all that stamping on there, because I was like, well, what color would I use? I don't want it to be all super, basically like navy color. So I did find some thickers. These are my coastline thickers, and I had enough to spell out Uros. I really wanted it to be Uros Floating Islands, but, I certainly didn't have enough letters for that. But the main point, there, gets spelled out perfectly fine without having to Frankenstein. And then I really want Floating Islands to be on there, so I take these teeny tiny little tile stickers. They're from Damask Love, but they're actually intended to be planner stickers, which, that doesn't bother me. I don't care. And I spell out Floating Islands. They've got like a ton of each letter on each page, and I have 2 packs of them, so I feel very confident in using those to spell out whatever I need to spell out. I do use my little Cricut tweezers. Now, of course, it doesn't matter if they're Cricut brand or not. I just happen to have Cricut ones. Because these tiny tile stickers, if I get it stuck on my thumb, like, it's not going down straight at all. And even still, while using these, I probably could use a ruler or, something else to make it a little more straight. But if you're doing small stickers, I highly recommend the tweezers. They are very helpful. So I get my stamps back out. I'm like, oh, I haven't used these. It's kind of like a cheetah print stamp. It's pretty small. But I think that would just add a little something, right there. Kind of embellish up the title a little bit. I thought about using my gold ink, and I'm like, you know what? That's a little too much with the kind of mermaid, iridescent, whatever that I have in the title. I'm just not loving it. And I'm like, oh, wait, well, I don't have to use ink. I have all of this heat embossing stuff. And it's been a while since I've done heat embossing. So I decide to pull out my, heat embossing box and my Versamark pad, and I do a ton, actually, of these little stamps. And I am using a new embossing powder. This was on clearance, at Hobby Lobby. It's called Orange Glitter, the embossing tinsel, which I've had some of the embossing tinsel before, and it really does add a nice sparkle. And I am all about the sparkle, and orange is not usually a color I use, but I really think it pops on this, mostly blue and white layout. It just kind of adds a little something else. And in some of the other pieces of this collection, there are definitely like reds and oranges and things that are in the same, color family as the orange tinsel that I use. Now, I end up doing a ton of these. You can see that I did not make you watch all of it, although I do think I have you watching a little more than I intended. Sorry. Skip through it if you don't want to see it, but also heat embossing is pretty neat. It's kind of a little bit of magic as, the embossing powder just kind of melts there. I love it. And this is where I thought I was going to stop, but I'm like, you know what? That middle section just needs a little something. So I don't do nearly as much heat embossing here. Not nearly as much as that kind of thick top area that I do. But, I throw in a little just to have some continuity throughout my layout. So it doesn't look so bare. And I know it's hard. It seems silly to say that my layout looks bare, but because it obviously has a lot going on. But I think the embossed areas really just add something to it, and I like what I've done. So with that, I know that there is a lot going on this layout, so I decided, you know what? That's it. It's okay. And I finished my layout. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.